right, today we're going to do a bit of an unboxing, and I'm going to share with you how I installed the Wolfbox G840H mirror dash cam. This has both a front and rear camera that you can actually see the entire time you're driving. It has some other features as well. I'm not going to go in depth about the features, but let me just say it has an automatic recording functionality. It does include a GPS. I want to point out here, I did need to purchase an extension cable for this to fit in my 22-foot Ford Transit Beyond. I purchased the 50-foot extension cable. I would have been okay, I believe, with the 33-foot cable. But let's go ahead and get started with the unboxing, and I'll talk a little bit about how I installed the product. All right, you should have noticed from my earlier screen captures that I purchased this on Amazon. The product is made in China, and it actually looks like a regular rear view mirror, although it really is an LED screen. It's packed very well. You know, the first thing you're going to see when you open it up is the camera itself. Now, this has the front camera. You're looking at the front camera there in the bottom right. This also straps onto your existing rear view camera quite easily. We'll take a look at that in a moment. So here's what's in the box. Of course, we have the camera, the dash cam that includes the front camera, the rear camera, a GPS device, user manual, a power supply cable, and a stock cable that runs to the rear camera. And as I mentioned, I purchased an additional extension cable that you'll see me use here to route to the back camera. All right, so what are we looking at here? This is the power cable, again, that hooks into a regular cigarette lighter. This is your GPS unit. That square piece actually adheres to your dash or on your windshield. These are the brackets we're going to use to mount the dash cam to our existing rear view mirror. That's the rear camera and mounting brackets. And this is the stock cable that runs from your dash cam back to that rear camera that's going to be mounted on the outside. And as I mentioned, I purchased the 50-foot extension cord cable. And again, for my Class B van, I would have been fine with the 33-foot. All of those different cables, right, they run to the dash cam. They plug in very simply here, you know, on the side. This is a slot for your micro SD card. It does come with a micro SD card. This is the device you're actually going to record onto, and it will record over, it will loop record, you know, as necessary, the various videos. I mentioned the instruction manual. Actually, it comes in 4 languages: French, English, German, and Spanish, I believe. This is the second model in their series, and for those of you that want to look at some of the different specs, you can see here, you know, how well it records. It actually produces a very nice recording, let me just say that. Okay, let me show you some live pictures of how I installed this. Now, you know, after I simply put the camera onto my rear view mirror, which is a very easy thing to do, really the challenge is routing the cable. And I used just a paint stick, a wooden paint stick, and routed the cable, you know, underneath the trim on, starting with my window. Now, once I, you know, reached the passenger side of the vehicle, I actually had to go up inside one of my cabinets. This is actually the space where my solar controller power unit is normally located. I just simply took that out so I could see what I was doing, where those cables were being routed. And so my cable goes up over my passenger door. I actually then routed it behind that solar control power unit to get to a location now which is above my side door, this area right here. And you'll see some screws on the top that I needed to take off. I believe there's 3 on the top. There might be a few on the bottom. 1, 2, 3 on the top there. Actually, I don't think there are any on the bottom. I also had to pop off my Firefly panel. That just simply pulls off. Why? Because there's a hole there through which I routed the cable. There's some cables already routed through there that my upfitter, Coachmen, used. So again, I just removed those top 3 screws, popped off my Firefly panel, and I actually routed the extension cable through that hole on the right. Okay, so now the challenge is to get all of that excess cable, right, through this hole I referred to. There it is right there. That's an existing hole in my van, my year, my build. And we're going to route that through there. It's quite a bit of cable. This is what it looks like on the other side. I did have to temporarily just unhook my Wi-Fi Ranger from those black screws you see there. All right, so I'm going to pull this through there. Right, quite a bit of extra cable. And I'm reattaching now my Firefly panel. This is how I reattached it and disassembled it. There's just 2 flaps on the end there that allow you to unhook that. And now it's time to kind of put a few things back together, starting with the panel, that large panel over my side door that was just simply secured with those 3 screws. This is the one panel I removed above the passenger door. So I'm going to go ahead and replace that. I went ahead and replaced my solar control unit for my Lithionics battery, and everything is put back together the way it once was. Now, the challenge here is to route the rest of this cable through my cabinets out the back of the van. This first cabinet actually comes also with a pre-drilled hole that Coachmen uses to route the LED strip for the lighting in those upper cabinets. So I purchased cable clamps, I believe they're called, or you'll see me use them here. They're plastic cable routing clamps. I don't know exactly what they're called, but I use those to just simply tack the cable to the wood cabinet, just so that those wires were out of the way. I do that actually at the end of the video. Now, one thing I want to point out, those pre-drilled holes, for me, and again, my build, they existed in my first cabinet and my second cabinet. In this third cabinet, though, Coachmen actually chose to drill up. There's a hole that goes up that they use to route the LED strip in. That didn't work for me. So here is where I had to drill the first of a few extra holes in my cabinets. So I just simply drilled a hole through those 2 white vertical posts that you're seeing right there. This is what it looks like after the drilling, okay? And I fed my cable through those 2 different holes. You don't see these, nothing to be afraid of, when you're drilling here. But again, all we're trying to do is to route that cable eventually out the back door. Now for this last cabinet, you can see I drilled another hole. I actually made a mistake on my first one. I drilled it too high. This hole, however, right, actually now allows the cable to exit the cabinets. I'm avoiding that screen, right? And by being above the screen, I'm actually coming out right here. These are 2 cubbies. There's one on the right side and one on the left side that Coachmen adds as part of their build. That's where the cable now is going to exit my van. And you're going to see here, I'm going to route it through some of the exterior weather stripping. It actually routes underneath it. So there's 2 things you're looking at here. One is the cable that goes to the camera. The other red wire actually needs to be connected to one of your rear brake light wires. And to get to that, I had to remove these screws for my rear view light, okay? So found the right connection. I used my multimeter to make sure I knew which was the hot wire, my rear brake, my reverse wire. So my wife helped me in the car. She had the emergency brake on, right? Shifted into reverse. Once that wire was hot, I was able to identify it. And this is maybe the most difficult part of the installation, but what I had to actually do was buy an additional length of wire so that that red wire could actually reach down to my hot rear light wire. So I had to splice a wire to the existing wire. I'm going to run that through underneath my weather stripping. It's going down to my light fixture, and it's being connected there. What's the purpose of this? Well, when you shift from drive to reverse, that reverse light becomes hot, and that tells the camera to shift from the front camera to the rear camera. You can do that manually if you don't want to go through all this hassle, but I chose to do this, I chose to splice that red wire to my rear brake light wire. And again, I needed to order an extra wire. I needed to order some or buy some material to actually do the splicing. Once I did that, the only thing left really to do is to install the rear view camera. Now it comes with some 3M tape. There are some screws as well. I chose to put one screw into that hard plastic, but honestly, I think the 3M tape alone is sufficient. There's tape underneath the black hardware mount, and then there was also an additional piece of tape underneath the camera itself. You can pivot that camera to different degrees, vertical degrees as well. But it is mounted for me up on top of my rear brake light rear camera. That camera that comes with the stock Ford Transit. There is a rear view camera that comes with the stock Ford Transit. However, it only works when you shift into reverse. I did have to pay some special attention to kind of reattach that weather stripping, but it's plenty secure, no issues with it damaging my wire as of yet. The last thing for me to do here is to decide if I want to install the GPS. Again, there's a 3M adhesive sticker on the back of that. I believe the black piece of the GPS needs to be facing the sky. So this will probably be mounted either on my dash or possibly on the rear of the camera itself. I did some final cleanup here. This cable that you're seeing here runs to my AC or my cigarette lighter outlet, okay, which for me is just a simple run down the corner here, right, in front of my cup holder, and it comes out here. This is the only visible part of the cord of the entire installation that you have, is just those few inches right there, and that's where it gets its power. So here's how you actually start the product. So you plug, of course, the product into power. I started my vehicle here. There is an on-off button here right in the bottom center of the product here. Once it's on, you can see it automatically defaults to recording mode, and you're able to toggle back and forth between the front camera and the rear camera. And actually, if you swipe your finger left and right, up and down, you can adjust the view of the camera. Now, when I shift into reverse, it automatically goes to my rear camera. And this particular view is like a parking assist view. So it's going to be viewing on a downward angle. But for when I'm driving, you'll see it actually projects a view, right, just straight out, the back of your vehicle, just as if you had a normal rear view mirror. So let's go over everything. So this is where I routed everything up through here, right, through the cabinets. I used that existing first hole and the second hole on the left here. Here's where I had to drill my first hole, though. And again, I couldn't use that up and down existing holes. Routed into my last cabinet with another hole I needed to drill. And then I think my third and final hole here, I had to drill up top, coming out the back. This is kind of the view that you see here. It's a much more clear picture than what my camera picked up here. But again, I can toggle that back and forth, and you can see it's already in recording mode. If you hit that little home button on the left, it takes you to a screen where you can view your recordings on that micro SD. And again, that cable that's hanging down, at this point I had not routed my GPS cable, but that's the cable to the GPS device. And again, I think my plan is I'm actually going to adhere that to the back of the camera itself so that it picks up a good GPS signal. Okay, folks, there you go. I hope that was helpful. Again, this is the Wolfbox Stream Media Mirror Dashcam, and you saw me install it here. I'm pretty pleased so far. I've got a few things to figure out with the GPS, and I'm just hoping that, you know, those wires hold up under the weather stripping. So I hope this was helpful. If you have any ideas on how to improve the installation process, if you did something differently, drop a comment and let us know what it is. So anyway, hope again it was helpful. Thanks for watching.